Mad Forensic Scientist here. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and I hope you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any other lectures. And now, enjoy this presentation. Buddy, I hope you're excited for a quick and dirty overview of OSHA bloodborne pathogens. Quick overview will include some bloodborne pathogens, how they spread, specifically some bloodborne pathogens, control plans, universal controls, workplace controls, as well as ways to protect yourself, and exposure incidents, and how to report them. Do you know you could be at risk of getting one or more bloodborne diseases at work? Do you know how acquiring such a disease will impact your life? Do you know what to do to eliminate or significantly reduce the chances of getting one of these diseases? This training program aims to answer those questions and provide you with knowledge and skills to prevent you from getting the disease of bloodborne pathogens. Are bloodborne pathogens? These are microorganisms such as viruses that are present in human blood and cause disease in humans. Typically, these infectious organisms are carried in the blood and other body fluids, and they may cause illness when transferred from infected individuals to another individual through blood or other body fluids. The bloodborne pathogen is the greatest risk of transmission through exposure in the workplace include hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV. Even a single exposure to these pathogens can result in illness or death. How are bloodborne pathogens spread? In the workplace, the most common cause of BBP transmission is direct contact or entry of blood from an infected person through an open wound of another person. Bloodborne pathogens may not be only found in human blood, but also in other potentially infectious materials or OPIM. This means they can be transmitted through the following infected body fluids: blood, blood products such as serum or plasma, semen, cerebrospinal fluid, vaginal secretions, or synovial fluid, and other various bodily fluids. Hepatitis B virus is one of the principal causes of hepatitis, an infection causing liver inflammation. Viral hepatitis may result in a life-threatening complications such as liver cirrhosis, liver cancer, and liver failure. There's no known cure for HBV, and approximately 8 to 16% of all infected people with the virus in the United States die. Hepatitis B virus has a worldwide distribution of over 400 million carriers. In the United States, there are around 1 to 1.4 million carriers. Roughly 50 to 60% of all infected persons with HBV show symptoms, which include but are not limited to fatigue, loss of appetite, fever, joint pain, nausea, abdominal pain and vomiting, or jaundice. Jaundice refers to the yellowing of skin and indicates a more serious phase of HBV infection. It is caused by the damage to the liver, resulting in diminished liver function and the ability to filter out waste from the blood. This results in an increased concentration of waste in the blood, leading to jaundice. How hepatitis B is transmitted. Blood and blood products are the most common and effective vehicles for transmitting HBV. While hepatitis B surface antigen is found in almost all body secretions and excretions, only blood, breast milk, saliva, vaginal fluids, and semen are infectious. The most common ways it is spread are accidental through needle sticks or other sharps, contamination of mucous membranes, eyes, mouth, and nose with infected blood or tissue material, transfer in infected blood, plasma, serum, or tissue through non-contact skin abrasions such as abrasions, chapped skin, skin affected with dermatitis, scratches, or rashes. Also indirect transfer through contaminated gloves, medical devices, and other environmental surfaces. The virus can stay infectious in the environment for up to 7 days. That's why any form of wet or dry blood must be treated as infectious. The greatest risk of exposure. Because of transmission routes, the virus bears the greatest risk of infection through occupational exposure. In fact, people performing jobs involving handling blood and OPIM are at greater risk of HBV infection than HIV infection. For example, the case of a needle stick accident, which a worker is exposed to infected blood, has a 3.3% chance of acquiring HIV, or a 3 in 1,000 chance. However, for HBV is estimated 30%, so 300 in 1,000. Simply put, the risk of acquiring HBV infection during occupational exposure is 100 times more than that of HIV. Speaking of HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus is the first virus that causes the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or AIDS. Upon infection, the virus fights and weakens the immune system and reduces the person's ability to fight off other infections. With increased vulnerability, the infection develops into AIDS and eventually causes death. There currently is no vaccine and no cure for HIV infection. HIV-infected individuals may show no symptoms, but after some duration of viral multiplication, the following symptoms may occur: swollen lymph nodes, fatigue, diarrhea, weight loss, persistent fever, persistent dry cough. Exposure controls. Legislation requires that all workers whose job duties may expose them to bloodborne pathogens be protected from occupational exposure. According to various regulations, including OSHA Bloodborne Pathogen Standards, employers must follow specific requirements to eliminate and minimize workplace exposure due to blood or OPIM. In general, employers are required to develop written plans, provide personal protective equipment, offer sufficient training for workers, provide free hepatitis B vaccinations, develop follow-up and evaluation procedures for all occupational exposure incidents, keep confidential medical records of all workers, and request workers to take blood tests when necessary, but allow the workers the right to refuse to be tested. Universal precautions refers to the concept of controlling bloodborne diseases by treating all human blood and specific human body fluids as if they contain HBV, HCV, HIV, or other bloodborne pathogens. Legislation requires the application of universal precautions in the workplace where workers handle human blood and other OPIM. In fact, under circumstances where differentiating different blood types becomes difficult, all human body fluids are considered potentially infectious. Employers should implement universal precautions and ensure that all blood and OPMI are handled with appropriate precautions. Workplace practice controls. Hand washing. Employers must provide hand washing facilities that are readily accessible to workers. If this isn't possible, antiseptic hand sanitizers in conjunction with paper towels or antiseptic towelettes may be acceptable. Employers must also ensure that workers wash their hands immediately or as soon as feasible possible after removing gloves and other PPE. During hand washing, workers must wash their hands, skin area, and flush mucous membranes that have come in contact with blood or OPIM. Drinking, eating, smoking, handling contact lenses, and applying cosmetic or lip balm are prohibited in work areas where the possibility of occupational exposure exists. Engineering controls are controls that help to remove or isolate bloodborne pathogen hazards in the workplace. Examples include self-sheathing needles, sharps disposal containers, safer medical devices such as needleless systems or needle-protected systems, personal protective equipment, or PPE, is used to prevent blood and OPIM from making direct contact with employees' mucous membranes, skin, or clothing. Types of PPE required in the workplace depend on the task performed and the forms of anticipated exposure. Some of these examples are gloves, protective body clothing, face shields, emergency ventilation devices, surgical caps, head covers and hoods, shoe protection, or mouthpiece and pockets. Exposure incidents and reporting. According to OSHA, an exposure incident means that a specific eye, nose, mouth, or other mucous membranes, broken skin, or contact with blood or OPIM during the performance of a worker's duties. The most frequent exposures are through needle sticks or skin punctures, splashes of the face, eyes, mouth, and nose, or contamination of open wounds, cuts, or abrasions. If you enjoyed this short overview. If you did, please check out the full course in the links below. In the captions, comments, as well as on our homepage, you can find links to the Bloodborne Pathogens full course, as well as certification. In this full course, you'll see 3 modules, beginning with the Bloodborne Pathogens Overview, in-depth of common bloodborne pathogens in Module 2, as well as an exposure plan as well as personal protection in Module 3. Once these 3 modules are completed, you will have learned how bloodborne pathogens are spread. You'll be familiar with bloodborne pathogens. You know most commonly bloodborne pathogens including hepatitis and HIV. You'll understand the requirements for effective controls. You'll know what's required for workers who may be exposed. And you'll get a general specific protective measures that are required to prevent getting the disease in the bloodborne workplace. Once completed, you get a certificate of training, signed, and in alignment with OSHA 29 CFR 1910-1030. This is a fully certified program and applies to all CLIA, COLA, and anything needed in the OSHA for bloodborne pathogens. So sign up today for OSHA Bloodborne Pathogens in the general workplace. Hope you enjoyed this video. Click the link in the description and sign up today for OSHA Bloodborne Pathogens. Be sure to like and subscribe. And again, appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for sticking around. Made it this far. Be sure to hit that like button. And then watch this next video. Appreciate you guys.